guys can be seated. How cool is this?
Yeah.
Way cool.
Man, welcome. So today's y'all's day. Today's the day. It's happening, huh? You excited? No problem. Good. You know, a lot's going to change today, and what you don't want to change is the commitment, the piece of the puzzle that you guys cherish so much. Okay? So, I tell you, marriage is about love, it's about trust, it's about partnership, it's about kids in the future. Right? You're building a life together, and you know, if you can honor all those elements that we just discussed, keep those at the forefront of the decisions that you guys are making, you're going to have a very happy, long marriage together, and I think that's the most important thing. What you guys build will be exactly what you envisioned when you shared all those great moments with me earlier in this week. So how did we get here? How did we get to this day? All right, tell you guys a little bit of backstory about these guys. I would say their relationship, from my perspective, is all about trusting your gut, envisioning what you want, and sticking to it and making sure it comes to fruition. And so, talk to you a little bit about how they got here. This journey, basically, to Austin, Texas, started in Taiwan. It almost didn't happen, right? They met online, and the idea was for them to, after talking a little bit, they wanted to meet for coffee. Well, this one was apparently too busy for coffee, and she canceled the first date. Well played. But then a few days later, she actually ended up having some time for a coffee. So she committed to 30 minutes if he was up for it. Every guy loves it when a girl cancels and then offers up, hey, another little bit of time.
The day I was flying out.
So luckily it was the day he was flying out. It was the day that he was set to head back from Taiwan to Texas. And so, you know, he had a couple options. He could have, you know, just flown out and done that, and we all wouldn't be here today, which is kind of crazy, right? But he decided to take that opportunity to meet her, and here we are, right? That 30 minutes turned into 3-4 hours-ish. And the both of them were very intrigued and very impressed by what they saw. For Jessica, it just clicked. He seemed like a nice guy. He wasn't super creepy. She said super creepy. She left it open for creepy, right?
Just a little. You gotta have a little bit of creepy.
He just seemed like someone that she could trust. He put her at ease immediately, which was kind of cool. Most importantly, it was someone that she felt she could talk to for hours, and it just went away, like it was just a few minutes. And that was kind of a cool thing that they both kind of noted. For Joe, he thought she was very cute, which, as most guys know, as soon as that happens, that canceled date means nothing, right? So we're back to zero, right? And you know, pretty much, you know, as far as like, for her, it was pretty easy to kind of get the ball rolling. It's easy to talk to her. It's easy to kind of get things going. And I think he was super intrigued after that 3 or 4 hour session. And one thing that he thought on the way out was like, dang, I have to go back now. I'm leaving the country, you know? And so he just left you. How does he get on that flight after that moment? But instead he decided to do it, and that's just kind of how things go. So for these two to make it, they were going to have to do it long distance. And that's kind of where we were. The funny thing is, I know you've seen all those reality TV shows. Their love affair happened without actually being in person. They did it all overseas. At first, they were just back and forth, just chit chat, just here and there. And then the COVID hit, right? Joe had to stop traveling. Funny story, side note, not in the notes, but there was a time when everyone was on lockdown And Joe's like, yeah, I'm going to San Francisco. I'm like, bro, that's ground zero. He's like, no, I'm just going to San Francisco. And he'd been traveling, so hadn't seen the news, hadn't seen anything, and he just decided that was it. So like, off in his own little world.
I'd touch on my tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. So after a little bit of back and forth, COVID hits, and they both decided to kind of commit a little bit further. They started having conversations. They talked about everything. They talked about their families. They talked about their lives. They really got into music. I mean, apparently music is very important for the both of them, and they kind of fell in love with each other even more as music came on. The common question that I got when Joe was traveling was, what exactly does Joe do? And honestly, I didn't have an answer. So, but they kind of got through all this. It was interesting when you think about like some of the things that happened in that time when they were getting to know each other. She joked about he joked about her moving to Texas one day. And she was like, you got to give me a reason to move here. Like, I don't have a reason to go there, right? And it was interesting. She actually made a trip back to the States after that first date to New England. And she didn't even think to, invite Joe up, partly because, she was going to be busy, obviously. Yeah. But, like, the idea that he might even, like, leave Texas and come up to New England for a weekend was kind of foreign, which we all know Joe. If you know Joe, that would have been, like, whatever. But, like, it just had to grow from there, and it did. But they got to know each other. They start to really, really get into that like emotional connection via the phone and text, and they really kind of grew. So one time, and this is a big milestone for Joe, there was a moment where she joked, probably, about him moving to Taiwan. And so Joe told me that in his impression, she probably didn't think that he was seriously ever consider going out there. In his mind, he was like, why not? And so from that moment forward, he started planning his trip, his trip to Taiwan, right? What was unique, and this is from Joe's words, what was unique about this was that this girl was very special to him. Every other trip that he'd been on, he kind of just took off. And he would just go do his thing, and he would go snowboard, probably terribly, and he would just go and enjoy himself. But the entire time, he had an apartment, he had stuff, he had things back in Texas. He was always coming back home. At this point, he sold literally everything. And he said, he jumped 2 feet in to try and take a shot, to see what would happen, because he felt that strongly about this person. And it was very different than anything he'd ever done before, which was kind of a cool thing to hear. Really want to give it a go. So obviously Joe goes to Taiwan. Fast forward a few months, and he's in quarantine for a while. And then Joe decides that he's going to get with her friend Sarah and trick her, which is kind of apparently a thing that he does with her. But Sarah told Jessica that she was going to meet her for a drink, and then all of a sudden Joe shows up with flowers and surprises her. I think to this day, Jessica still wonders where Sarah's at. She was so confused, super surprised.
She was like an hour away.
Yeah, nailed it. Complete surprise. And I think that was, when you think about and there's so many stories that I heard about how thoughtful Joe was and how much he really wanted to just make an impression on this one. And I just think that, like, for me, it was very special to hear, because I know Joe, obviously Joe's family, right? And to kind of hear the perspective that you had for how much he cared, it just makes sense, that he was so committed to you. So I thought that was really cool. As far as the wish that I would have, I would say, Joe, it's you. So it shouldn't be a problem, but don't lose that. Don't lose that. Make sure that you continue to do that, my friend. So, when they got there, they explored Taiwan. They went to places that they'd never been either of them been before. They explored different things. They got to know each other. They went to New Year's at Joe's aunt's house, and she met his cousins, and it was kind of a very special, and his mom's sister, you know, and it was a very special time for her. She, you know, really got a chance to appreciate Joe. She got a chance to kind of see what he was all about. There was a moment where Joe left the lights on in a car in a garage, apparently. Rookie move. Car dies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
16 years old, you learn to turn the lights off, right? So it was interesting because, you know, this was a time where, you know, she, as far as Chinese, she read it really well. He spoke it really well. And they kind of had to work together to kind of figure out how to get help and get to safety. You know, your future bride stuck in a garage, you got to make it happen. But the two of them worked through it together, and I thought that was really cool. I think it showed, and for you, it seemed like that was an opportunity to show like how you guys could work through things together and partner in the good. So I think that was a pretty big milestone for their relationship. You know, the language itself, you know, was something that you are obviously very committed to learning. You've invested a lot of energy and time, and for those that you don't know, she went through a formal process of just learning the language and trying to, you know, do it. And it's not an easy language to learn, you know. And one quote that I got was that, you know, there was a test that she took that was extremely hard, and struggled with it, and Joe helped her with it. And she genuinely doesn't believe that she was able to be able to do it without him. And I think that, like, when you talk about the support that he's given her, and you know how he's been there for her, I mean, that was something that's super meaningful, and I wanted to call that out because it just seemed like a very special thing that she told me. So as far as these guys, they kept building that love affair, and then he decided to propose for her birthday, and just before Mother's Day. He decided to pamper her and take her out to a spa, get the massage, get the hair, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, and they're having one of their epic, like, you know, 17-hour conversations. And Joe pulls out a ring and says, you know, in my head, here you go. According to her, it probably wasn't that far off. You know? Joe, minimalist, simple. You know, I think. What Joe told me is it went exactly how he wanted in his mind. You know, and I would say that it was. Yeah, I think she was a little confused at first. He explained that it was a proposal. She said yes.
Proposal should not require an explanation.
She said yes, and here we are. And they just kept building their love affair. You know, the funny thing about the ring, Joe had, you know, went out to look for a ring. He invited one of her friends to come with him to look for a ring. They spent an hour in the shop, couldn't find one. Went with one of his friends, spent an hour in the shop, couldn't find one. And they were just going back and forth to the shop. And he actually went to the shop for one last time to kind of see if he could find something. And the ring that he ended up getting was just kind of sitting on the side. It wasn't even prepared yet to sell, but it just spoke to him. And it said, you know, that this is the one. And so instantly he bought the ring, and that was the one. That's what you're going to see today. So I think that was kind of a cool story. But you know, he proposed, and he got, and then you know, they made their way back here, and here we are. I asked them both, what would it take, or what about the other person makes them a good spouse? To Jessica, Joe is loyal and caring to anyone she's ever seen him interact with, not just her, right? And so all you that know him, obviously, right? He likes adventure. He likes trying new things, more than she does, but it gets her out of her comfort zone, and she really likes that. He's a good planner and problem solver. Sure. Okay. And I quote, he's funny, ... sometimes.
Should've never asked him to do this.
He's open emotionally in ways that a lot of guys aren't. When he loves deeply, which she can't say that for a lot of people. They're both very stubborn. I'm sure you guys all know, right? But they're very persistent, and they work through things well together. He's a great communicator and works well with people in ways that she doesn't. She feels extremely supported by him. For Joe, he made a unicorn list of qualities that he would want in a partner. Initially, it was a very superficial list. He actually dated a girl that he thought had the qualities, and like, this is a lot of information. He dated the girl that he thought had the qualities of the original list. And when that didn't work out, he reviewed the list. He noticed that things on it were just not truly representative of the things that he thought were the most important. He revised the list well ahead of meeting Jessica. And he found out that Jessica, when he finally met her, truly embodied the things that he truly wanted. It was about how his partner would see him in her eyes. It was about how important he was to that person. He wanted someone who cherished him, who could look past all of his faults, or not all of them, at least some of them. He wanted someone who comforts him, and someone who takes care of him, and someone who wants him to take care of her. Jessie is his unicorn. One thing that Joe wanted to know, and he made sure that I kind of had this as part of the end here, but it truly makes him happy to be able to do things for her. It makes things happen for her that either she couldn't have made happen for herself, or in the past that others weren't able to do for her. One of his favorite things about sharing time with her is when she says, "I've never seen, done, eaten, or experienced that before." In his opinion, she's toughed some things out in the past, and it makes him feel really good when he's able to make things easier for her. That definitely makes for a great relationship, in my opinion. I share this love story as a reminder of how we got here and what you guys are committing to today. You obviously you care very deeply for each other. You both said at points that there's no one else that you'd rather share your best and your toughest moments with. So cherish that and enjoy your lives together. So here we are. You guys ready to get married?